Stop. Looks like it's going. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm filling in for Don Marshall here. So I'm happy to see everyone on the call, and I want to introduce Professor Alberto Figueroa-Medina from University of Puerto Rico-Mayaguez. How do you pronounce Mayaguez again, Alberto?
Mayaguez.
Mayaguez. Yeah.
Mayaguez, yes.
Yes, I was there. I just can't say it yet. And we're pleased to have him talk about his work on using virtual reality. So please take it away.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Happy to be here. Welcome, everybody. In this afternoon, I'm going to talk about the development of this project and some of the results using virtual reality. So you will see the details about it, and we will have some time at the end for a couple of questions. So hopefully I can manage the time effectively. So let me start by introducing the research team. I was the PI of this project, but I also work with Dr. Valdez and Dr. Cruzado. Dr. Valdez is the associate director of the Safer Team project here at Mayaguez, and he was as well co-PI with Dr. Yvette Cruzado. Both of them are also transportation engineering professors here at Mayaguez. And we had 3 research assistants. We have Natasha. She is a master's student in our program, transportation program in civil engineering. And we have Dr. Andres Chamorro. He was at the computer science and engineering department. He already graduated, so he's now obviously in other duties. And we also had the assistant of Jan Badillo. He's a bachelor degree student in software engineering. So we were happy to work together on this task. The agenda for today's presentation is very short. I'm going to talk about the research statement, the objectives that we had for the study, some of the details related to the methodology, and some of the issues we had on this project, other than the pandemic, but with the technology as well. And we are going to talk about the scenarios that we use for the study. We had 2 phases, one for drivers and then one for pedestrians. So that's a nice, interesting situation. And at the end, I'm going to show you some of the results and some of the conclusions from what we achieved on the project. The justification or the research statement is related to intersection safety. Obviously, the study of behavior of road users at intersection is very important, particularly for the side of pedestrian safety. You know that there is a high frequency of fatal and injury crashes that happen at or near intersections. And in particular, those crashes are related to right-turning vehicles. So some of them are related to right-turning vehicles, between vehicles, pedestrians, bicycles, and depending on the geometry and the different traffic control features at the intersection. So obviously, the severity of those right-turning crashes have been linked to the speed of that turning vehicle. And by itself, the speed is also influenced by the curve radius at the intersection, the presence of turning lanes, if any, and also the traffic control. One of the safety issues with the operation of a right-turning vehicle is sometimes the focus of the driver. They might be focusing on their left side visually, looking for conflicting traffic coming into intersection, and might be overlooking the potential presence of pedestrians on their right side. And they realize that once they are already at speed trying to complete their turning. So that's one of the issues that we wanted to take a look at with the use of virtual reality. We have used virtual reality as a pedestrian simulator on previous study. We completed 2 studies in the Safer Sim group. And also we have other colleagues at Safer Sim Consortium that have worked with virtual reality and have obviously show the benefits of using virtual reality to study pedestrian behavior in safe and controlled environment. Obviously, the real life is outside on the street, but you have many confounding factors, and collecting data on the real conditions is not cheap, and sometimes it's very complex, but depending on the amount of technology you have available. So the benefits of virtual reality is having that interactive simulation. There are opportunities for interaction between the user and the scene, and the sensory immersion that allows the technology to recreate in some way real world experiences. Like I said, all researchers at the University of Iowa and other members of the Safer team, for example, Dr. Kearney, Dr. Plummer, have used virtual reality, and they have shown the application of virtual reality technology for studying the human brain and the reactions. And other researchers have demonstrated that virtual reality technology is more than capable to replicate real-world behavior. The issue is the design of the experiment, how you identify the factors that you want to study, and being able to separate those factors in a design of experiment that can assist you identify a relationship, and obviously without forgetting about the confounding factors that you probably are missing out for the experiment. So that's obviously a balance that the researcher has to do with the technology. Virtual reality will not function for all the potential issues that you might find on the street, but it can help you with a careful design of the experiment. You can see some behavior and measure it with the technology. This study, like I said, is the third study we have completed with the use of virtual reality as a pedestrian simulator. We have two previous projects, as you see on the screen, that use virtual reality to study pedestrian behavior at crossing location, in this case, mid-block location for a straight segment. We use it first as the one on the left, the study of gap acceptance at walking speed. We wanted to see how the technology helped us to measure how people make the decision to cross with traffic. Obviously, the second part of that project is the one on the right, that we upgraded the project by giving the subject a virtual tablet or smartphone that give them information about the traffic conditions, for example, the speed, the time and distance that the vehicle had to reach the crosswalk, to see if that type of information in a connected environment might assist or hinder the capability of a person to make a safe crossing on the street. So very, very interesting. And those two webinars, we already completed those. The reports are on the Safer Team website. So I invite you to take a look at them if this topic is of interest to you. In this study, the objective was to simulate right turning situations. So we now move from the straight segment to an intersection. And we use unsignalized intersection for this topic. We wanted to see the behavior of the road user at those type of movement, right turning movement at the intersection. I can say we, at the beginning, were very aggressive in the proposal, probably looking hindsight. These are really two projects into one. We wanted to see the two perspectives on the situation, first the drivers and then the pedestrians. So the concept was to analyze right turning behavior from the two perspectives, drivers and pedestrians. In the case of the driving simulation using virtual reality, this was our first attempt. So we obviously, I want to acknowledge that we have a lot of growing pains to create the virtual reality for the driving simulation. We didn't have that experience before, so we started basically from scratch, trying to recreate the cockpit driving simulator that we already have with the screens and everything, and we wanted to recreate that on the virtual reality technology. And it took us a lot of time, more than we expected at the beginning. and we require assistance. I have to thank Dr. Kelvin Santiago for University of Wisconsin, that he gave us a lot of help, technical assistance, how to adapt our current driving simulator to the virtual reality environment. So that was a lot of help, but like I said, it took us more time than we expected at the beginning. So we had to make some changes to the methodology we proposed at the beginning. The methodology included 12 steps. 7 of those, we had to repeat them for the driver scenarios and then for the pedestrian scenarios. At the beginning of the process, we wanted to have a sequential process, and we wanted to have the driving simulation first, so we can measure behavior of drivers at the right turning movement, and then take that information to program the avatar vehicles on the pedestrian simulator. Like I said, the time it took us for complete the driving simulator was too much, and because we had already experience with the pedestrian simulator, we had the pedestrian simulator rather quickly after we created the city. So we decided to, instead of having a sequential process, we decided to split them apart and have them parallel paths with the pedestrian and then with the driver. So that was the sequence we followed. We had to create a city, a virtual city for the projects to be able to run the test trials, and then we created the scenario. So let me tell you that the city was based on a 6x6 block structure. I will show you the city in a moment. And we modified from elements that we acquired from the Unity asset store. We use Unity 3D to create the virtual reality environment. And after the city was created, we did the coding for the scenarios for the driver and the pedestrian experiments. Like I said, the pedestrian experiment we did rather quickly because we had the experience from the previous projects. For the driver simulator, we had more time to create that. We had a sample of 24 subjects for the pedestrian simulation and 24 subjects for the driving simulation. And I'm going to show you some of the details for the development of the city and the scenarios that we conducted at the lab. You see top view of the city. We created a 6x6 block, except for 2. All the blocks were similar in size. It had a shape, a rectangular shape, 1 unit, 3 unit vertical, 1 unit horizontal. You see, it's a small block, small city, walkable city, you can say. And we have 2 types of streets. We have the main street going north-south. Those were 4 lanes, no median, no control, so basically free flow. And then the side street, 2-lane side streets going east to west, and those had stop control at the intersection. So that was the setting we used for the city. As you can see on the right side, we put buildings wide. The sidewalks were about 20 feet. We wanted to give a good depth perception to the driver so they didn't feel confined in the virtual scenario. And the lanes were standard 12 feet. And the corners, the standard size of the corners is 15 feet. So that was in a nutshell how we created with AutoCAD, SketchUp, Blender software, and we improved the rendering on the Unity 3D software. Obviously, you can see it was very aggressive, the approach. We want to have a city that we can create different scenarios for the right turning movements. And obviously, what we encountered at the end was we had some issues with the performance of the computer to be able to recreate the video image at the simulation. We didn't have any issue at the computer. When we had the computer, it ran very well. But once we added the goggles, the 3D goggles, and the communication between the glasses, we use HTC Vive High Pro, and the computer, then we start seeing some lagging and some latency on the recreation of the buildings. And the issue with that is that on the straight movement, there was no issue. But once you got into a turning movement, then you start seeing people, when we do the testing, we start seeing people getting vertigo, nausea because of all the movement. So we had to, you know, optimize the display, the performance of the computer. When we spent a lot of time trying to obviously have a video projection on the virtual reality goggles that didn't produce that vertigo on the people. So that was the main issue. That was the thing that took us a lot of time for the driving simulator. Once we created the city, we wanted to add different treatments for the right turning. So we had 3 treatments. The basic lane was a shared through right turn lane. Like I said at the beginning, the corners, all the corners had 15 feet in radius. So it was like a medium-sized, you know, corner. It wasn't very small. It wasn't very big. Okay, and as you can see the intersection, basic intersection. The second treatment was then to add an exclusive turning lane on the right, obviously the right turning movement. We use AASHTO Green Book typical values. We added a taper, deceleration, storage, and we had 2 options. We included a 150 and 250 lane length of the lane to see if the lane, the size of the lane had any effect on the behavior. So that was the second treatment. That's the ERT lane. And the third one was then a channelized right turn lane. And in this case, obviously, we had to increase the radius of the corner so we can obviously promote higher vehicles on the driving simulation. And we decided to go from 2 options, 30 feet and 60 feet for the turning radius. As you can see on the picture, we added the island on the corner, and also we added a receiving lane on the after the intersection. So those vehicles have their own, you know, right of way to turn and keep the lane. So they didn't have to either stop or yield to traffic on the simulation. So those were the 3 treatments for the right turn movements that we wanted to test for the driving simulation to see how drivers react to those geometrics at the intersection. And because of the issue with the quality of the images, we had to change our approach and then went to the pedestrian first, the pedestrian simulation first. And for the pedestrians, we decided to only test them on this scenario, on the channelized right turn lane. Why? Because during the pilot testing with the other 2 treatments, because obviously the drivers had to reduce a lot of the speed to make the turns. Basically, it was a narrow side street. In the virtual reality, the 2 lanes, a lot of people, if they basically had to stop to get to the turning lane. So we decided that the conflict with the pedestrian was not really that high, and we decided to keep the channelized right turn as the test track for pedestrians. So once we decided that, we focused on that treatment, and we had the 2 configurations for the radius, 30 and 60 feet, and then we added the 2 other factors, the length of the lane, 150 to 150 feet, and we added a traffic flow path variables to the experiment. We had 2, a single path and a dual path. Vehicles were generated using a random gap from 3 to 8 seconds. We had 24 subjects in the sample, and each scenario was repeated 3 times per person. So each person had to do 12 crossing events. And the issue with the factor for the path, these are the 2 factors we use. A single path, assuming people take the taper, enter the turning lane, and make the operation right, like as you can see on the screen. And then the dual path is that we have 2 paths that people enter, their vehicles enter the right turn lane. One, the following is the basic, and the other is a more aggressive driver that enter the turning lane at the middle, and those two paths were randomly assigned to vehicles on the simulation. So some of the results, and I have about 5 minutes or so to give some time for questions, is that average walking speeds based on the path of the vehicles surprisingly didn't have any effect on the pedestrians. The pedestrians were watching traffic coming into the turning lane. It didn't matter basically if it was the single path or the dual path. The speed distributions were similar statistically, as you can see from the mean value, basically are the same. So there was no effect for the path that the vehicles follow to enter the lane. But when we saw the combination of the lane length and the radius of the turning corner, statistically, if you go by 95%, you can say that they are similar, but they are marginally similar. You see it's 0.08. So if some people on safety analysis go to 90 percentile confidence level, then you can say that there is some effect of the radius of the corner on the walking speed that the pedestrians use to cross the turning roadway. Mathematically, you can see 427 for the larger radius, 415 for the smaller radius. You can see it's very close, but there was, marginal difference between those two factors. For the lane length, didn't show to have a big difference, as you can see from the distributions. On the gap taken, which gap the pedestrian accepted on the vehicle stream to decided to cross. Remember that the vehicle gaps had a range from 3 to 8 seconds, and those were assigned randomly in the traffic generation at the simulations. We also found that the gap that people accepted didn't change due to the radius or the other factors of the geometrics. You can see 6.7, 6.8 seconds for either radius. And to give you a perspective, I didn't have much time to do all the comparisons, but if you go to the project for the mid-block crossing, the gap accepted is very close, 6.5 seconds. With a similar standard deviation. So that might be telling us that people are using a pattern of behavior on the virtual reality simulator, very similar, didn't matter the setting that they were at. So that's very interesting. Crossing success, how many times the person was able to cross safely. It was a 96% success rate. We had 10 collisions out of the 200-something observations, 288 observations. And out of the 24 subjects, 7 were struck or hit by a turning vehicle. So they were obviously in a crash. Interestingly, 2 persons had more than one crash. So that means that they really didn't understand the actual behavior or the good safe behavior, how to cross the road. From the 12 times they had to do it, this subject, a 22-year-old female, was hit 3 times. And in our simulation, they knew when they got hit because we put a display that started flashing a message, you were hit. So the pedestrian knew when the vehicle hit them, even though they might not see it because they were focusing their visual, display on different settings. So they knew once they crossed and they got hit, they knew. So they will understand they will be assessed and try to do it good. See if they are just, going by the project. So this is the subjects on the pedestrian side. On the driver side, like I said, we had some issues. We create this from the scratch basically, and we decided to give it a trial. And we created a travel path on the city with different turns, the 3 treatments, and we wanted people to go through those treatments twice, except for the channelized one. The channelized one had 3 trials with a surprise on the end. As you can see, you have the numbers for the 3 treatments, and you can see the following. I put the yellow arrows so you can see what are the location of the right turns that we were looking at. And obviously there is a path that the trip took people like 15 to 20 minutes on the virtual reality scenario. We didn't want people to start and stop, so we wanted to give them a whole trip so they can feel used to the vehicle, the dynamic, stop, go, accelerating. So we didn't want a scenario that it was very quick and start again. So we wanted them to have the whole experience. That gave us problem with older subjects. You can see from the range, we managed to have young people using the virtual reality. Some of them are used to virtual reality for games and other stuff, so they didn't have that vertigo. But older people, once they start seeing all the movement, they couldn't manage all that information at the same time. So we had to reduce our sample. And to understand where they have to turn, we added a GPS commands visually and voice commands on where to turn, where to follow, where to go through, and so on. So people obviously understood what were the trip they want to make quickly. And I know I'm running out of time. We managed to recreate the results from the driving simulation that we have from the cockpit driving simulator, and we had access to the speed profile. I will show you very quickly what was the behavior of people making the right turn at the shared right turn. As you can see, the vertical blue line is the last voice command telling them go to the right. As you can see, people started slowing down once they heard the last messages, the last confirming message that this is the intersection you have to cross. And you can see that on the average, they went as low as 10 miles per hour to do the turn on the 15-foot radius. When you go to the exclusive lane, behavior is basically the same. Obviously, there is a change in the profile due to the entrance to the exclusive lane. So the acceleration went higher at that location once they entered the only lane. But as you can see, the turning was basically at the same speed, about 10 miles per hour. When they got into the higher turning lane, the channelized, now you can start seeing higher velocity speeds as expected. It went at maybe 3-4 miles on average, but as you can follow, the spread also increased on the channelized. So more people understood that they had the channelized flow of the geometrics, allowing them to go faster. And on the other two treatments, the spread was smaller on that sense. So obviously, this type of geometrics allows more people to feel more comfortable going higher. And to end the presentation with this last result, we also had access to the trajectories across the entire city. And we focus on this location. This is one of the right turns with the channelized lane. And we use this one as a confirmation that our assumption of the dual path will actually make sense. That people actually do the dual path. Some of them enter on the lane at the beginning, and you have other drivers that even from the left side hand, they went and make the cross to make to enter the right turning, even though they have the second voice command telling them this is the confirmation. Okay, you have to cross because they have a first voice command already planning the right turn. So to end, some of the comments we can make from this story is that average walking speed were slightly affected by the radius of the right turning at the intersection. So they walk faster on those locations that vehicles were faster. So that was consistent. But overall, the other behavior, speeds, gap taken, and the intersection crosses was very similar to the results we found from the previous experiments for the mute block. When you see the numbers, the behavior is very similar. When we get into the driving, like I said, older subjects have issues with the technology. They have the vertigo, nausea. So we have to improve our hardware, maybe video card, to have more power, processing power, so we can reduce that latency that obviously people feel on the headset. Vehicle speed were higher for the channelized right turn. That's an obvious result. And the virtual reality driving simulator confirmed that dual path of how people enter the turning right lane at intersection. So in a nutshell, that was the project that we completed from the use of virtual reality for the pedestrian and driving behavior related to right turning movements at unsignalized intersection.
Thank you very much, Alberto. That was very interesting. I want to open it up for any questions that anyone has. You can either unmute and talk, or you can type it into chat. So after doing this project, what's your outlook on doing further studies with this virtual reality?
Well, for the side of the pedestrians, we feel comfortable using them. Actually, we have another project in this run for runabouts using pedestrians. But for the driver side, we need more information, because the people from software engineer and the computer engineer told us that we had good hardware. So it's not a matter that we have outdated hardware.
Yeah.
We hit the specification. It's the goggles, the refresh rate is not compatible to the processing power that the computer has, and there was some lagging, and that's an issue, because as a researcher, the part of the driving simulation, we have to be careful. What are we measuring? Real conditions, or we are measuring drivers that are not nauseous. So that's not obviously real conditions, that at least the ones we wanted to study. So we had to be careful to improve our system or the hardware to understand we don't have latency and issues like that.
Yeah. Any other questions? I'm curious, just one more thing, since we are doing technical work to begin to adopt Unreal Engine for some of our rendering. Did you do some comparisons between the two types of technologies, the two game engines? Why did you choose the one that you did? And do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I to tell you the truth, I guess we were naive enough that the transition from the pedestrian environment was going to be smoother for the driving.
Yeah.
Because we also had recently, we acquired Oculus headset, but at the time we already committed to HTC Vive, and the issue with technology is that 2-3 years pass, and then you are old technology.
Yeah.
And then you have this project that you have to complete. So obviously there are many objectives, but probably once we have the new Oculus, we can go back and see if those issues are mitigated or less, so people can rely on this for the driving simulation part. Because when you see driving gaming doesn't have as much issues. People have to get used to it. The first time you go there and the world is revolving around you, so you feel dizzy and you feel sick. But for some reason, young people already are used to it. So I'm not psychologist, so I don't know if it's more an human side issue than a hardware issue. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why it's so important to do the validation against
Mhm.
whatever real world data that you have. So
On top of that, then you have obviously the experiment that you wanna test. So you have those obviously you have to be careful what you study and how you obviously support your conclusion at the end.
very true. Very true. Okay, if there are no other questions, we can conclude this webinar. Thank you again, Alberto.
Thank you, and thanks to Tom Marshall and Safer Thinking for this opportunity.
All right, have a good afternoon, everyone.